Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan, a K-12 product educator here at Canva. In a past life, I was a high school maths teacher. Everyone's favorite subject, right? When I'm not solving equations, I love showing teachers and students all the amazing things that they can do in Canva. Today, we're diving into some exciting things that we've launched at Canva Create to level up your lessons. At the heart of our teaching is how we create lessons for our students. We know that every teacher is different and every student is different. And so we want to put differentiation in your hands. Kicking off, I'll show you how you can leverage our lessons feature in Canva to organize all your amazing activities and track student progress. What about how are students progressing in their learning? Well, we'll have pulse checks with polls and quizzes, not only making assessments more interactive, but also providing that immediate feedback, which we know is crucial for both you and your students to gauge understanding. And finally, our newest addition, we'll be looking at using Canva's Savvy Sheets for smarter teaching. Now, personally, I love a whole grid of numbers in a table, but how do we make this more visual and easy to understand? I'll show you how to take all of your data and easily make sense of them using our magic features. But before we get into all those exciting things, just to refresh you, Canva for Education is our all-in-one visual suite. Now, how we communicate is constantly evolving. And here at Canva, we want to ensure teachers and students are equipped with all the tools that they need in order to do this in the most effective way possible. Now, you might have used Canva in the past to make some engaging posters for your classroom or even presentations for your students. But our rich visual suite has just so much more to offer. So whether it's collaborating on documents, editing videos, or even building websites, we've got you covered. I love statistics, so here's a few that I want to share with you. Firstly, we're used by over 90 million students and teachers across the globe. But more importantly, my favorite stat here is that we're 100% free for K-12 schools and districts from wherever you're listening in from today. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world or what budget you have available, you can have access to world-class learning in your classroom. If you'd like more info on signing up, you can find more about this in the resources that we've shared with you. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Leveraging lessons in Canva. So I'm sure you're wondering, Jonathan, how do I get started with all this? Well, it's actually really super easy. Let me show you. All you need to do, as you can see here, is navigate to your template section. And I could search for an education presentation like this, or I can actually filter by all these different options. I've got my grade, I've got my subjects, or even my resource type. What I'm going to do today is I'm actually looking for a science lesson. So I'm going to click into that, have a bit of a scroll. I'm actually looking for a lesson on the environment. So I'm going to go ahead and select that option. And then once you've found that, you can go ahead and differentiate and customize that for your student needs. So what does this actually look like when you assign it to your students? Well, take a look over here. Here I've got my lessons, I've got some description. What's really great is I can actually see and all the progress that my students have done. So I can see whether they've started it or whether they need feedback. I can also see all the different activities that they've been assigned to in that. So that's what lessons will look like when you give that to your students. So how are you all feeling? Excited? Me too. But the best way to check that is with a little poll or quiz. How do I add that in? Well, that's a great question. Let me show you. So adding in a poll or quiz into a lesson is super easy. Everything in Canva lives in that sidebar over here. So I'm going to go ahead, look for a poll template that I can go ahead and add in. And then once I've got that in my design, I can edit any of the responses that I want to put in there. So I can see I can type in, we're looking at assessments used for a professional development course, and I can go ahead and add in those options. And once you've added them all in, just like with any other Canva design, you can modify colors, you can add text or graphics, and do anything that you'd like to do in other designs as well. And once you're happy with that, you're done. And you can share that with your teachers or students. So that's enough of me talking. Now it's your turn. Pause the video and you can access the activity with the link below the video. So here's my lesson and I can see I've got all these different activities. I've even got homework for you to take a look at after the class. But I'm going to jump into our pre-assessment here where we've got our polls and quizzes. And you can see you could ask your students any question you'd like. I'm asking, which newly launched feature from Canva Create excites you the most? And I can go ahead and add in those options and I'm going to select Canva Sheets. And you can see that those results will filter in live. I can also have a look at the responses, and if your students are logged in, you'll be able to see all that information there at your fingertips. And you can even download it as a CSV and do your analysis that you'd like there. What else can I do with polls and quizzes? Well, really, it's entirely up to you. You could look at well-being check-ins for how students are feeling for the new year. You can look at inserting little quizzes, bite-sized learning, that they can go ahead and get that immediate feedback that we talked about. Now, one thing I'm really excited to show you is our AI-powered quiz generator, which is going to save you so much time in your classroom. So what I'm going to do is select my text, and you can see I'll select Magic Write, and then Generate Quiz. And all in a few clicks, you can insert a quiz based on the content that's there for your students ready to go. So what else can I do with polls or quizzes? We really see this as an integrated part of how your lessons should look. As you can see here, as a math teacher, I had to include an example. So you can see I'm incorporating a visual element alongside the poll or quiz. And this could work for your teacher professional development sessions, your student check-ins, even your formative assessments. Again, I'm just going to put in those responses, and if I remember correctly, this one here should be y equals to 2x. There we go, got it right. And of course, the grand reveal. How can we use Canva's savvy sheets for smarter teaching? From analyzing student assessment results to bolstering your students' data skills, we've got you covered here. We've completely rethought how you can use a spreadsheet. We keep the core functionality of everything that you'd want, your structure and your formulas, but with the power of everything that you know and love in Canva. Our millions of graphics and elements, the power of Magic Studio, all brought together by our all-in-one visual suite. So I'm going to show you all of the amazing features that we've put into Canva Sheets that are going to save you time and really help you understand the data that you've collected. From our beautiful visualizations, magic formulas, and insights, and even filling in cells with just a single prompt. Let me show you how to get started. Again, pause the video, and then you can jump into the activity with the link below. So welcome to Canva Sheets. As you're opening up this activity, you'll see you're presented with all of those visual cells and instructions there. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the zoom level so I can see all of the cells that are in this little activity. So I'm going to set it to 60%. And then you can see in this column D over here, you've got all the instructions that you can go ahead and get started with. And then in column F, that's where you're going to go ahead and try out that particular feature. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a date. And the way I can do that is I'll select this cell, and then I'm going to select the Actions button on the priority toolbar there. And I'm going to scroll down to Date, add that in. And today is Canva Create, so I'm going to go ahead and select April 10th, 2025. Okay, that's how you can easily add in a date with the Sheets feature. So what else can you do in Canva Sheets? Well, now I want to mention a student or teacher to let them know that something's ready. So the way I can do that is I'm going to select that Actions button again, scroll down to Mention, and then I'll go ahead and type their name. And it's that easy. Earlier I talked about how everything that you know and love in Canva, you can do in our Sheets. So let's go ahead and add an image. So I'll go over to the sidebar over here. Let's look for an image to add. Select some photos. I like this one. Let's go ahead and add that one in. Perfect. What about animated graphics or GIFs? Same thing. Let's go back to the sidebar over here. I'm going to go ahead and look for some animated graphics here. I like this one, so let's go ahead and drop that in there. How do you like those? Well, let us know. With our drop-down feature, you can go ahead and let us know what you thought about each of these. They were pretty easy for me. What about those beautiful data visualizations that we've talked about? Let's say we've done a little class survey of my students about how they get to school. And then I want my students to analyze that and create a visualization. Well, what I'm going to do is in my instructions on the blue over here in this column, it says select the data set, including cells B2 to C10. So let's go ahead and select those. And then I'm going to select Magic Charts, and you can see I'm immediately presented with all these different options. I'm going to select a pie chart because conveniently that fits nicely into this little graphic over here. You can customize, you can change how that looks visually, but that's all you need to create beautiful data visualizations in Canvas Sheets. So that was visualizations. Now let me show you magic formulas. So let's say your students are preparing for their school dance. And of course, we need to know what our budget is going to be and how much everything is going to cost. So we've done a little budget over here. But I'm thinking, look, how much is this going to cost me at a minimum? What are the must-have items? And so I could add up all these different must-have items over here, like the venue, the entertainment, the security. But I know there's that way to do it in a sheet. I just can't remember what that formula is. So this is where magic formulas comes in really handy. The prompt I'm looking for is I'm looking for the total sum of those must-have items plus a 7.5% tip. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that prompt there. So I'm going to go to my total cell over here and type the equals key. And you can see I'm presented with all these different formulas, but I'm going to select magic formulas. I'll go ahead and paste my prompt. And there we go, there's my answer. Here's my formula, and the answer is $6,289. Pretty pricey school dance. But there's just something missing. I have this sum if formula, but to be honest, I actually don't really know how everything here works. So one thing that's really great for you and your students is you can select the explain formula option. And that's actually going to tell me how all those different variables work in the formula. Oh, that's right, yeah. So it looks at the must-have as the text condition in cells E5 to E18. And then of course it adds that 1.075 to account for the 7.5% tip. So this is really great when your students are looking at how they can be empowered to use Sheets themselves, as well as having that assistance. So let's go ahead and insert that in, and then that's it. So that's magic formulas. Now, what about if I want to generate a set of data? Well, that's where Magic Write is going to come in really handy. Here I've got a little PE task that I want my students to do. I actually want to create that data set for them. I'm looking for some basketball players, like their team, their position, and I want to actually see the relationship between the height and the arm span of these players. Now, I'm not going to be able to go ahead and collect this myself, so I'm going to get Magic Write to help me do this for me. Let's go ahead and select the cells B2 to G8. I'll go to Actions in the toolbar and select Fill Empty Cells under Magic Write. We'll give it a moment there. So once all your data has been generated, then your students can go ahead and do any analysis that they'd like. I'd encourage you to think about how you can use some of the other magic features, for example, magic formulas, and looking at the correlation between the height and the arm span of your basketball players here. So I've shown you a few of the amazing tasks that you can do with Canvas Sheets, but let's put this all together. Let's say I've collected all my student results and now I want to do some analysis on that. Over here, you can see I've got some student test results that I really want to try and make sense of. And this is where Magic Insights is really going to help me save time in understanding my students and their learning needs. I've got all their student assessment results here across different topics like reading, writing, and arithmetic. And how Magic Insights works is I'm going to go ahead and select all my cells, so C3 to F20. And then I'm going to go to Actions in the toolbar. And to make sense of this data, I'm going to select Generate Insights from the dropdown. Let's go ahead and type a prompt. You could potentially look for what are the areas of strengths or improvements in my class, or which students need more help. I'm just going to look for a summary. So let's summarize my data. And then hit generate. Once that's done, you can see there's a variety of different things that I can look at. There's some text, there's some graphs. Let's go ahead and drop an instant chart into this space over here. If you want to take away some of those magic insights, you can copy the text and paste it in this cell. And if you're interested in the formula and how that actually works, again, the same thing. You can go ahead and copy that into the formula box over here. I'd love you to try some other prompts to see how you can make sense of the data that we've given to you or that you have of your own. Now, we've just covered the tip of the iceberg with what you can do with our newest features. Just one more thing I want to show you though. We won't have time to go hands-on with this one, but the last thing I wanted to give you is just a bit of a taste of how you can level up your lessons and with the next evolution of creation for your classroom. We're incredibly excited to introduce Canva Code. Now you can create interactive experiences for your students with no code required. So what can you actually do with Canva Code? Well, at your fingertips, you can build interactive and adaptable instructional materials, revision games for your students, or even apps or widgets for your classroom. If you can dream it, you can build it, all with Canva Code. How does it actually work? All you need to do is simply describe what you need and we'll generate it. Go ahead and type in a prompt for what you're looking for. Here I'm looking for an interactive game where students are shown different objects of the solar system. And what's really important is that you can actually continue to iterate the creation until it matches your vision. And once you're happy with it, you can publish as a link or embed in any Canva design. So we're moving away from that endless search for the right digital resource for your lesson to building creations that are as quick and as easy as just making any other design. Forget about looking at those third-party clunky tools and let's look towards seamless integration that you can pop into any Canva design that you've made already. And there's no need to worry about being limited by technical skills or barriers, but now you can unleash your imagination with the power of our AI-powered tools. Now here are just some of the prompts that our education team have used to get you started. But again, we'd love for you to share in our communities what prompts that you've tried and the designs that you've made as well. So we've covered so much today. We've looked at how you can leverage lessons in Canva and track student progress and provide that feedback that they need. We've looked at how we can get a pulse check of our students with polls and quizzes and make learning more interactive. And finally, the hero of our lesson, looking at savvy sheets for smarter teaching, whether it's using our magic tools or creating beautiful and visual data sheets. If you want to continue your learning journey, you can do that right now with Canva Design School. There's hundreds of tutorials for every profession, and you can become a certified legend in under an hour with our certification courses. Just go to canva.com/designschool to get started. That's all from me. I'm Jonathan. Hope you've taken away some amazing things from today. Happy designing.